guys, welcome back to another Gimpys Gal Guesses. This is a special one because this was one of the very first games. I think it was the very first game Gimpy ever did on this channel. So I've never seen him play it, but if you've been here since the beginning, you've seen it. So I'm gonna do a guesses on that. It is a Gimpys Games. It's called Absolute Victory, War in the Pacific, World Conflicted 1939 to 1945. And I'm just gonna kind of jump into it. If you're new and you've never seen one of these before, just to kind of give you a heads up, it's just me kind of taking a stab in the dark at how this game is played. It's sort of an unboxing, but if you're here to learn anything about the game, this is not the video for that. This is just me having fun, trying to figure out these games without reading the rule books. So if you're interested in that, give this a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I think that's all I needed to cover before, so I'm just gonna jump into it. So again, Gimpys Games, Absolute Victory, War in the Pacific. This is the front of the box. And then on the back, we have this. Looks like we have an example of gameplay, have kind of the description up here. Complexity, it is a medium. Playing time, it says 5+ hours. Solitaire suitability is high, so it's very, very solitaire friendly. Playing pieces, 1,700 counters, a 1/2 inch and a 5/8 inch are the pieces, and then a playing map. 3 32 by 22 maps, and this game is huge. This is the one I'm thinking of. This was the one that he had set up in our spare room at our old house. That took up the entire room. It was massive, massive, massive. It was literally the first one I remember seeing, just because he told me it was the one in that room. I never saw him play it, but I know that's the first one he filmed. It was humongous, and he was filming it on a tablet with no lighting, no microphone, no nothing. It was like the very beginning of Gimpy. So go check out those videos to see how far he's come, but that's what this is. So it kind of has come full circle for us. So that is the back of the box. So let's go ahead and open it on up. Pardon me. And all right, so we have some dice here, lots and lots of counters. Oh, another dice. All right, so we have 2 dice here. I think these are 10-sided. Yeah, 10-sided dice, 2 of those, a gray one and a white one. Hopefully this is in frame. And then 2 little teeny weeny 6-sided die, a black and a white. Then this is the Rulebook 1, Rulebook 2, and Rulebook 3. So there's 3 rulebooks. This is the UN Events Booklet, the Axis Events Booklet. And then over here we have, looks like some player aid. So we have, I'll go through these booklets in just a second. I'm just kind of going through what all we have because that box didn't list everything out. Some games, some games will have everything kind of listed out on the back of it. Like details like dice and how many booklets and how many player aids. This one just said it had like a bunch of game pieces, but it didn't break it down like how many of those are maps, how many of those are booklets. So that's what I'm doing here. So this, I believe, is a player aid. It just says the front, integrated land, naval, air combat display. We have a terrain effects chart. Those are both just front. We have an unsave events card, UN save events card, and then the Axis save events card. Master terrain key, front and back, the land mode grid, national leadership, turn record track, extended turn record track, diplomatic alignments display, Axis army group display card, the omnibus markers track, UN Army Group display card, Naval Task Force display card, and then I believe the rest are counters and maps. So there are the counters, and here are the maps. So 1, 2, 3, 4 ginormous maps, and then a whole bunch of counters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 player 8 cards. Okay, and then we have the 2 event booklets and the 3 rule books. So that's the contents of it. So now we'll kind of look through it and see if we can figure out how we play this game. There was this little, I never remember what to call these. I always like forget. It's like a little pamphlet, like a little, like a PR thing, like a little catalog of things you can order from Compass Games. This was from 2017, but there's that. Okay. So, excuse me. It's been a while since I've filmed. All right. Rulebook 1. It is full color. Looks like, yeah. And it is, come on. A 47-page rulebook, so not too bad. I just like to flip through them just to see if anything kind of stands out to me. Just your state of the run-of-the-mill rulebook. So there is the first rulebook. Second rulebook says regional rules. This one just said the rulebook. So rulebook 1 is just rulebook. This one says regional rules. So I guess this breaks it down. This is the regional rules. And it is also full color and also 47 pages. So we'll just flip through this. So this is something to do with the regional rules. So I don't know what it has that the regular rule book doesn't have, but I'm assuming this goes into more detail. With the size of this game, I would imagine it would need more than one rule book. So that is rule book 2, the regional rules. Rule book 3 says scenarios, hex catalog, and production charts. So that is what is in this rule book. And it is 36 pages, so a little bit smaller, but it just has the scenarios, the hex catalog, which I'm assuming, what is the hex catalog? Like the terrain, or I don't know. So there's all the scenarios. What is the hex chart? That's a production chart. Those are the production charts. Hex catalog. I don't know what that means. What appears below is simply a list of every single land hex on the AV map. So I guess this is what every single terrain thing is on the map. Because like I said, this map is huge. When I open it and show you, you're going to be shocked. So that's what this is. So this breaks down, I guess, the map, each individual piece on the map, like the hexes on the map, scenarios, and then the back of it is the production charts. So that is rulebook 3. And then we have these event booklets. So it looks like it's 2 sides. So I try to guess who, what, when, and where. Who, we have the Axis and the UN. That's who we have. Those are the 2 sides. And it said on the front of the box, World Conflict 1936, 1945. So that's when. And it said War in the Pacific. So this already answered all of it. So you have a wonderful night. That was another Gimpys Gals guesses. Bye. Just kidding. But it did answer those for me. Sometimes games kind of give it away. Nothing I can do about it. It says it on the front of the box. So it's in the Pacific, 1939 to 1945. But we do know that it's UN and the Axis. And the events booklet looks like all the little events that happened in this conflict. So here is the UN events book. You can see it has like a little a Munich-like trip to Tokyo. The 100 Regiments campaign, so it just breaks down each event that happened in this conflict on each side. So that's the UN one. It is giving me a page number. I don't know, it's pretty decent size. It's about the size of the roll booklets, but that is what it looks like. So it lists all of the UN events, and then we have the same for the Axis. Just lists out all the events that happened in the conflict. And I'm assuming that the rule books will tell you when those come in. Then these, again, there were 15 or 14. I think there's 14 player aid cards. So we're going to go through those really quickly. terrain effects chart is exactly what it sounds like. It doesn't take a genius. I mean, I certainly do not know my way around a war game, but that's pretty self-explanatory. It explains terrain. I know enough from seeing him play games and playing a few that terrain affects your movement. It can affect attacks and things like that. So that's what this is showing you, what effect that terrain is going to cause on your action. So that is what this is. So we have terrain type, combat effects, and movement or other penalties. Down here, there is weather effects on combat and supply effects on combat. So that is the first player aid card. It's just one side. This is the Axis Air Superiority Box, the UN Air Superiority Box. It says the front, integrated land, naval, and air combat display. So you have both sides represented on this. So this shows you who's available for air, from the Axis, and then from the UN, and then which one are committed box. I don't know what that means. And then down here, we have another chart that I'm sure the rule book explains a little better, but that again is a one-sided player aid. The UN save events card is also one-sided, but this has, it says event may be reloaded right here. Event will deploy a variant, and then I guess these go with counters maybe, and tells you like the British raised troops in Ethiopia, British amphibious from Ceylon, whatever, U.S. Operation Overload. So that's an events card, save events card. Again, not sure what that means, but the rulebook will definitely tell you. Axis save events cards are the same thing for the Axis, and again, it's just one-sided. This is the master terrain key, so I think this just tells you the basics about the terrain, like what each one looks like. It doesn't talk about effects on your combat or your movement or anything. This is just the key for it. So it just tells you what the terrain is, what it looks like, and then down here must be something also to do with the terrain, because it says like Antarctic transfer point, convoy port, printed fort, surrender city, strategic base hex. So something to do with the terrain as well, and it is front and back. So on this one we have a garrison table, air grounding table, fuel shortage table, naval interception table, and then some counters are broken down here, and then we have airstrike table here at the bottom. So that was the like master key for the terrain, and then on the back it kind of breaks down some more things. Then we have the land mode grid, and it says defense modes. And it just says counterattack, hold at all costs, balanced defense, defense in depth, fighting retreat. And then we have blitzkrieg, frontal assault, normal attack, night attack, and holding attack. So these are the attack modes, and these are the defense modes. And then it tells you if this is the attack mode and this is the defense mode, what happens. Don't know what that means, but that's how you would read the chart. And that is also just a front one. And then we have the national leadership. So we have Germany, Great Britain, United States, Union of Soviet Socialists, and the Empire of Japan. And that is just front as well. And it just says things like people who would be in leadership in those places. So like this one has Hitler, Neville Chamberlain, William Douglas, Joseph Stalin, Hironobu Kishiro. So that's just like, this is the chart that talks about the leaders from every side that was involved in this conflict. And then we have the turn record track. So this just keeps track of your turn. Each turn is an amount of time, it looks like, because it has a calendar here. Like this one says September to October 1939. This is November to December 39, January to February of 40, and so on and so forth. So this is the turn track. And it said the game takes upwards of 5 hours, like it's 5 hours or more. So the minimum game you can play would be 5 hours. But I think remembering the size of it, I don't know how you could play it in 5 hours, but I guess it's possible. So here's the turn record track. And then it looks like there's an extended turn record track. These dates are before the date on the box. Like this says 37, and the date starts at 39. So I'm guessing these must be before and maybe after. That's how you can extend it. You can extend it by playing some scenarios that happened before or after the conflict that it in general talks about. So that is the extended turn record track. Again, it's just a front. Then this is the diplomatic alignments display. I guess it just talks about diplomats. I don't know, pro-Nazi, pro-UN, pro-Japan, pro-US, pro-Soviet, and then neutral. And then down here we have Nazi conquest, Japanese conquest, Soviet conquests, and UN conquests. Again, don't really know what that means, but it seems pretty self-explanatory about it has to do with the people and what side they're on, I'm assuming. It's probably a little more in-depth than that. It's not that simple, but that's what it looks like to me. Then we have the Axis Army Group Display Card, which is just the front. It says Italian AG, Japan AG, Shattered Remnants Box. For example, this one says Prince of Piedmont Army Group. Don't know what that means. Here is Group A, probably some German word or something. Again, this just says Axis Army Group Display. So these are the armies in the Axis. And then we have the Omnibus Markers Track. The Omnibus Marker Track is used to display British, US, and German strategic warfare levels. And then down here we have an event chit draw track, whatever that means. But this one is, again, just one side. So you display the strategic warfare levels while you're playing the game. It's a lot of player aids in this. And then we have a UN Army, or like I said in the beginning so stupidly, a UN Army Group Display Card. So this is for the UN Army, and then the Naval Task Force display card. Looks very similar to the other one that we saw a minute ago for the Axis. And then that is all the player aids, and now we're down to the counters and then the maps. So push the maps over here. We're gonna look at these counters really quickly. There's a lot of them. I wanna say I said there was like 1,700, so there is a lot. This game is absolutely massive. So we have some flags from all the different people that are represented in this conflict. Have some tanks, some planes, some more planes. Have a few people over here. And they all have a bunch of numbers and things on them, letters that mean nothing to me because I don't go through the rule book and read it out and teach myself what each counter talks about or shows, but it is in the rule book. So this is just me showing you. These do not have a back, they only have a front. So I'll just kind of hold it here if you want to get a better look at it, screenshot it. And you can have a better look. He will probably be going back through this again. I'm assuming that's why he got it. He loves this game. And again, it kind of takes us back to our roots and where he started at. So I'm sure you'll see these in more detail when he gets the game out and plays it, but I just like to flip through them really quickly. And they're all one-sided, I believe. So here's the next sheet of cards. Again, more planes, tanks, people, flags. What you would expect in a war game. But I could never tell you what any of them mean just because I've never really played a war game ever. The only one I've ever played is like a card game. And even that, I couldn't tell you what any counters or anything. So even though I've done a lot of these, I don't come to the table any more knowledgeable about how to play the games. I only come knowledgeable about contents. So for example, I know that most of these games have a list of contents on the back. I know they talk about the solitaire suitability, how hard it is, how long it takes. I know those things are usually always on these boxes or in them. And I know what they generally contain, maps, counters, rule books. Aside from that, that's it. Everything else is brand new every time I do one. So here is the third sheet, and it does say the numbers here as far as what sheet it is. So here's the third sheet. And again, they're only the front. Fourth sheet. Fifth sheet, I see some American flags on this one. And here is the sixth one. Counters galore. And these are small counters. I do remember when he had this set up at our old house, I want to say Bradley had gone in there at one point and bumped the table and knocked these everywhere, and it was quite a pain to clean it up. So this is not a game that I would say is friendly if you have young children around. Like, he will never be able to set this up out here and leave it because it will be destroyed in a matter of minutes. But if you have a room where you can set it up and kind of leave it closed behind closed doors where your kids will leave it alone, it's probably a game a lot of people would find enjoyable because there's so much to it. It's very in-depth, and I think that that's what's appealing about this game for Gimpy is it's not just a quick bam, bam, I'm done. there's a lot of strategy and a lot of time and effort that goes into it. And so I just think it's a really cool game. So when I talked about a game, I forget what video it was, and I was talking about how there are games that people play for years. I didn't mean that they play consistently for years. I meant that they play like this. Like if it's a big giant game that takes hours and hours, but people can only meet for an hour every other week or something, they play with friends, they might meet up and pick up where they left off. And that might take a long time. And a game this big could easily take that long. So this says this is the Antarctica map. Hopefully the whole thing is in frame. I'll kind of slide it just in case it's not. So this is the Antarctica map. So we can see the little hexes and how there's different terrains. There are some different symbols. This is the storm table, weather box, the front reserve boxes, current naval round, and then it just says absolute victory, Antarctica map. So that is the Antarctica map. And these are like cardstock, like poster type of paper that's shiny as you can see, but they're not super thick, so I will be very careful with them. And you set these up, I believe you can set these up all together. Like he had them all laid out side by side together. I'm not gonna do that because we don't have room for that. But that's, I believe, how it is set up. Be very careful. There we go. This one's bigger. I think that was the smaller of them. This one is the map A. Then it says Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, is up here at the top. Again, now I'm seeing all these little symbols that were on the map key, the terrain map key, or map terrain key, whatever it was called. That is what that is. So here is that. This looks like this is Africa down here. Lots of symbols, lots of hexes. Finish, claims, truck. I'll hold this up here. Is at the bottom. Kidnapped, general box, and deploy off-map USA units here. So that's map A. This one is pretty big. Map B. Yeah, this one is quite large. Whew, that's huge. So yeah, I think you set these up all together, but it's just, I don't have the space to do that. So we'll start here at the top of this one. We have the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, China, it's all ocean with some islands over here. And then we have Australia. And then at the very, very bottom, we have A-bomb tracks and USA box. So this is deploy off map USA units here. Silk Road, open closed, Burma Road, open closed. So that is map B. So pretty big. And then the last map, which is probably map C. Yep. It's another big one. You have to be careful opening these because I've opened one of these before, not this game, but another game with similar material, and it ripped right on the seam. Because if you're not careful, the way they're folded and how crisp they are, they're very easy to just kind of tear along that seam if you're not super careful. So be careful. Okay, here's our homeland, United States of America, Canada, Mexico, South America down here. This is again map C, and again I'm seeing a lot of those symbols that we saw on that map key, so that's where those come into play. I didn't know if those were counters or if those symbols were on the map. It looks like they're on the map. And at the bottom here we have code breaking advantage, submarine pots shots, and then yeah, that's all that's on this one. So that's map C. So we have gone through the entire box quickly, but we've gone through it all. The only thing that we went through quickly was the counters. Everything else we kind of stopped and looked at. So looking at all of this and remembering back to when Gimpy had this on the table, and it says it's very solitaire friendly. So I gotta try to get this out now. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm remembering how large it is, and that's, like I said, the first thing is just how big it is. I already know who, when it takes place, it says 39 to 45 in the Pacific, World War II, right? Yeah. I promise I'm not stupid. I'm just not a history major. Yeah, it's a historically based war game. So you're doing the events and the battles that happened in real life, in history. And it's huge because it's the entire conflict. And it looks like you can make it even longer if you want to do some of the conflicts that could have led up to it or some things that happened after. But it looks like what I've seen, I could never tell you how it's played. I know there's dice, I know there's counters, I know there are terrain and there's effects from that. There's multiple sides. You can play it solitaire, but I don't know how. I guess there's, I didn't see anything in here that was specific for solitaire. Sometimes there is like a solitaire compatibility thing or something that will kind of take a game that's multiplayer and it'll allow it to be played solitaire. So it'll be like I forget what it's called, like an autopilot type of a thing. So it'll be like a list of things that your opposition will do, so you can play against like a robot basically, but it's a paper telling you what they would do. I didn't see that in here. I'm assuming it's in the rule books because it says it is very, very, very solitaire friendly, probably because it's so large and it takes so long to play. So it's probably a little more likely that you would play it at home when you have spare time, where you can leave it set up and you can come to it when you can get to it. If you play it with other people, that might be harder to do because, again, this thing is bigger than this table that I'm at right now. It would be falling off the sides of this table. So it's kind of one that you either have to set aside a whole day to do it, or you have to have somewhere where you can put it where it's safe, but you can come and play whenever you can, because this one is very, very in-depth. But as far as what that in-depth means, really couldn't tell you, except for you're fighting World War II, and that's what you're doing. And there's counters and there's dice and you're moving, and that's kind of dumb because of course that's how you play a game, but that's really all I can tell you. I've told you who, when, what, and where. I've showed you everything in it. I've told you this kind of brings us full circle. This is where Gimpy started. So if you've not seen this, I'm telling you, the quality of the videos are going to be completely night and day from here. He did not have a professional camera. He did not have any lighting or microphones. He was just holding his tablet. It was not very well lit. You could barely hear him. It was very shaky, but he has come so far from then. And to have Compass Games send him this was like a moment for him. So again, thank you, Compass Games. This is what started Gimpy. This is the game he started this channel on. If you've not seen that, go way back to the beginning. I think we're almost at his 3 year. I think he started in August of 2017, and here we are in 2020. And he's come so far. So absolute victory, where it all began. We're back to it now. It has come full circle. He will be talking more about this soon. I am sure he is very excited to get this. He was like a kid at Christmas. So I'm excited for him. If you guys enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I'm gonna go, but I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Bye. This is where it all started. It was really cheesy and stupid. But anyways, that's crazy. I remember this game on the table, but I could never tell you how it was played, but I remember it was huge. It was huge, 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 huge. And I remember Bradley, or it might have even been me, going into that room to grab the vacuum or to get something, and the table got bumped, and those thousands of counters, it's not thousands, it's 1,700, but those counters that are very important were all over the floor. They weren't anywhere on the map where they had been, and it was a disaster. So definitely do not set this up if you have small children, because they will destroy it. It needs to be in its own private room. If you're gonna play it like in one go, set aside a day to do that. Otherwise, you need to have a special place you can set this up that will not be messed with by pets, by visitors or children, because it will happen. This thing is massive.